My name is Lebo Biko.
And my name is Isetso Lekena.
And the business name is Oya Foods. So what inspired us to start the business, the short version, we actually started our business in lockdown. So in 2020, when not much else was happening around us, my business partner and I were already in the work that we're doing around women's development, and particularly around women's development across the continent. So I think in the quietness of those moments when literally nothing else was happening, we thought about how can we continue our impact? How do we do more with women, and how do we do more with their contribution on the continent and their growth? And so we looked around and said, let's do something that elevates African food. We looked around and saw that we couldn't find the food that we wanted to eat, which a lot of it was dried stuff, which a lot of it was dried greens. And we actually started with the business drying things like spinach and kale on our patios in a way that I think is traditional in the way that we grew up with many of these greens, but in a way that our grandmothers were also doing them. So we started with spinach and kale, but also different things like sweet potato leaves and pumpkin leaves that we know you don't find on the shop shelves, but are actually highly edible. So we said, why can't we find these foods on our traditional stores? How do we do it in a way that elevates how or celebrates the way that they're prepared, which is dehydration, which then also has a benefit in that it keeps the food going longer? And how do we do it in a way that supports women in the value chain, which is about saying supporting women farmers who at that time bore the brunt of COVID and actually were not able to take their stuff to market. And so that's actually what inspired our business in elevating African food, bringing African food in a way that people don't expect it, but can appreciate it a lot more. Let's do it in a way that also gets women coming along the value chain, and let's do it in a way that is also environmentally responsible, which is making sure that the dehydrated food actually doesn't spoil, you keep it for longer, and there's no food waste. And so we looked at that, and there seemed to be interest, and now there seems to be commercial viability, and that's what we're growing on.
At Oya Foods, we work with underutilized African indigenous food. We use plant pods like pumpkin leaves, sweet potato leaves, beetroot leaves, and mustard leaves as well, and we turn that into shelf-stable food. By promoting this approach, we're able to create shelf-stable food by taking fresh produce and creating products out of it, being able to give it basically access to market, and being able to give those products to retailers, to households, as well as food businesses as well.
So I think like many businesses, we go through, what is that musical instrument, an accordion of growth. And I think through our journey, we've kind of experiences the ups and downs of that, with I think the biggest objective is to scale. And those have been the challenges going up and going down. And I think, you know, you can always talk about funding, but it's actually what does the funding enable you to do? And scaling, I think, consistently for us, without going backwards and forwards, has probably been the biggest challenge. You know, in my previous role, when I was still at corporate, we had a business CEO that always talked about investing ahead of demand. And when we started our business, that's what we did. We invested ahead of demand. We put money in with identifying an opportunity in the hope that the market would be able to absorb the opportunity that we had. And we found ourselves with extra capacity. So having a big space, having big machinery, having lots of products, but not having a market that can go fast enough for that product. And I think over the last 2 years, we've kind of cut back a little bit on that, kind of say, let's grow as the market grows with us. And I think we've been able to make even smarter decisions with less money. So I think our biggest challenge, has been around how do we scale, I suppose, at the same rate as the market is kind of growing with us, or the market is taking the opportunity with us. And of course, with that comes things like money, investing, you know, in the right size assets, investing in the right size people, getting the opportunities to allow you to be able to make the products to get into bigger markets. But I think our biggest challenge has been scale. And I think over the last, I suppose, you know, necessity is the mother of invention. In the last 2 years or so, with limited resources, we've been a bit more clever around where do we put our money, and how do we unlock the opportunities that allow us to grow with that opportunity and not fall over with some of the bigness of it. So yeah.
I think for us, it has given us a sense of community. It's allowed us to be able to engage with other entrepreneurs. It has opened up doors for opportunities to be able to learn from other people. And yeah, it's just been great.
So I think for us, when we started the journey, once again, we were, at the time that we came to WorkPods, we had been doing all of the stuff in our kitchens. So I think the most important thing for us was to find a space that allowed us to have the compliance that's required with food. So there's a lot of food compliance, and as much as we know we keep very clean kitchens, you actually can't get into some of these opportunities, these retail spaces, these markets if you're not compliant. And so we actually came here for compliance, to move out of our kitchens, to have a place that is professional, that we can produce our products and that we can oversee them together at the same time. But I think we came specifically to WorkPods because we would have gone to any other place. We came to WorkPods because I think WorkPods understands the entrepreneur's journey a bit better. So for instance, the idea that you're on a month-to-month lease is a big thing for entrepreneurs, right? From a cash flow perspective, whereas other places wanted you to have a 12, 24-month lease. You don't have that. You don't have those deposits or that amount of commitment right up front. You don't know where you're going to be in 3-4 months. So I think for us it was wonderful to come here because it worked for our pocket. It understood the unpredictability of our journey. And I think as Diesel says, rather than going to some place where you're alone, to come here where there are other entrepreneurs, where you can go down the road to get the printer, to get your stuff, or you can go across the road to sort out your fridge, etc., because it's broken down. That's amazing for us to know that there's a village of entrepreneurs that you can connect with, yes, to have some sort of community, but actually that you can collaborate with and do business. I think that was a great value add for us. Sure, starting out in our industry particularly, I think, doing food was a wake-up call for me and my business partner. I think because we are both, we both appreciate food in some form or other. We had a great business idea, but I think we didn't understand some of the requirements for the business. So things like compliance, for instance, were a big thing that for us, until we understood what that journey is, was kind of like a rude awakening. So I think if you're starting in our industry, I think understand all the things that are required for you to succeed in the industry, because there are various things. There's the compliance piece, there's the retail piece, the whole trade marketing piece, which can be very daunting on its own to kind of say, how do you take your products to market? There's funding, etc. But I think just do a bit more homework around what are the hygiene factors for you to be successful in the business, so that even as you're growing at whatever pace you're growing at, you're able to think about investing in that next step. And then for me, agnostic of industry, I think as an entrepreneur, you must also be clear why you're starting a business, right? I think why is very important, because I think we chase different things. And if your why is not solid enough in those moments that things are really, really hard, it's that why that's going to keep you going. It's the why that keeps Reheme and I going, that we're building a women-owned business, we're building an African brand that's going to go global, that we're building women entrepreneurs along the way. And it keeps us going to think about innovation, but also when things are hard, to say we've got to keep going, we've got to keep going. If your why is not solid, you're really going to chop and change. Tomorrow's going to be a different day and you're going to give up. So I think agnostic of industry, just be clear, why am I doing this? Because in those hardest days, in those hardest moments, that's what you need to tap into to keep you going. And I think that's important.
We deal mainly with dehydrated products. We've got a range of dehydrated vegetables. We've got stuff like spinach, kale, and your not so conventional ones like your sweet potato leaves, mustard leaves, beetroot leaves, pumpkin leaves, which are not so conventional, but they're very nutritious and delicious. Then we've got stuff, those ones, you cook them, right? We've dried them, you cook them, make sure they're hydrated, make sure your recipe is hydrated because we've taken out all the water. Then we've got our powders, which you can use for your smoothies. We've got beetroot powder, pineapple powder, and kale powder as well. Then we've got my personal favorite, our snacks. We've got apple, dried apple, beetroot crisps, pineapple crisps. These you have as they are as snacks. And then we've got garnishes, which you can use for your cocktails and your mocktails. Got lime, blueberries, lemon, clementine, grapefruit. We've got a range. We've got a whole lot. You should check out our website. And then we've also got ginger infusions, which is basically like spice infusions that you have as like your teas, basically. Yeah, we've got cinnamon, mixed spice, and spice.